Hey sketchy friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you're new here then welcome. In this video I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really have much of a plan. I'm just kind of experimenting, but I'll tell you what happened is I started drawing out this building which I believe is in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, but that information comes from Pinterest, so I never trust that, but apparently this building is in Rio. And I kind of just lost my way with it. And this is about as far as I got. I drew it out in sort of pencil, just like the big shapes and stuff. If any of you have seen my other videos, or if you're a member of my Patreon, or if you've taken Sketchy Adventures, then you know that's generally my approach to get the very large shapes in pencil, large basic shapes, just to make sure it fits on the page. However, as you can see, the top of this building is right at the edge of the sketchbook, so I didn't do a particularly good job on that, but sometimes I just roll with it. I started drawing some of it in ink, as you can see. I'm using a Lamy Safari pen here, fountain pen, medium nib. And then I was kind of like, I don't really know what to do with this. I want to do something interesting with it. I don't want to just draw the building and then paint it and like, that's it. I want to do something like experimental and just something a bit more interesting. So I kind of left it where it was, and then I came back to it, and that's why I started filming it. Because I thought, hang on, let me just leave this kind of almost diagonal shape of the scene drawn in pen, and then let me sort of draw the rest, keep the rest drawn in pencil and in more detail than I would usually do if I was just going to go over it in pen, and do it kind of half pen drawn and then half painted, but the lines in the painted bit are just in pencil, if that makes any sense. And I was just like so excited about this idea, so I just really wanted to share it with you guys. So yeah, I'm just going in on the pencil, the bits drawn in pencil, and I'm just going to fully try and paint that. And then, I don't know whether to leave the pen bit just completely unpainted or uncolored, but I eventually came up for a plan with that, so you'll see that as this develops. Now, over on Patreon this month, we do a different theme each month, and this month we are looking at just sketching with a pencil and then doing watercolor on top. So we did some experiments last week in terms of testing what pencils work well underneath watercolor and which don't. And we drew this really cool gypsy wagon. And, for the rest of the month, we're going to just do different demos, just using pencil and painting with watercolor on top. But actually having those pencil lines kind of somewhat show through, so the pencil actually becomes the pen or the ink when we tend to think about line and wash. And it can actually really produce quite a beautiful effect. And you're going to see that on half of this sketch, where it is just pencil and watercolor. So to do a lot of these details, I'm using one of my favorite ever brushes, which is the Rosemary & Co. Travel Dagger brush. I believe it's the 1/4 inch. This is one of my essential brushes. You may have seen it in one of my YouTube videos quite a long time ago now, where I talk about my 3 most essential watercolor brushes. This is absolutely one of them. There is a link to it in the description below if you're interested in it. It's quite an inexpensive brush, but it's just, one I can't live without, to be honest, especially when it comes to painting small details. So this is definitely an experiment, guys. I really have no clear path of what I'm doing here, so I'm just experimenting right here on camera. And I just thought it's interesting for you guys to watch it. And, if you want to take this kind of thing further and be more experimental, then really please do come and join us over on Patreon. I really do think there's nothing else around that's like that. And if you want to practice, these kinds of scenes, architecture, that kind of thing, with a view to getting better at like travel sketching or urban sketching, we do a lot on those kind of subject matters. So do come and join us over there. It's a really great little community, which I'm hoping to grow over time. So watch this space. The link is in the description if you are interested. If you prefer more of a standalone course though, I go through a bit more of a conventional ink and watercolor sketching process that I've used to travel sketch across the world from 2017 to 2020. And I take you step by step. And if you head over to sketchyadventures.com right now, then you'll find a little gift there. So do check it out. Again, the link is in the description below. So I'm just sort of painting in some of the background trees there. Just kind of being pretty loose, to be honest, with my bigger brush there. That was an Escoda Reserva brush, number 10. And I'm bouncing around all over this sketch, as you guys can see, because I'm really just not sure what to do, but it's just really fun. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do next? What color should I do this? How's that going to look? So I've got the black brush pen out right now, and I'm just sort of shading in some of those windows. I don't want to do all of them in jet black though. I want to get a bit of variation in. So I'm going to do something different in a minute, but I'm just trying to squint my eyes and see where I want to put that jet black in. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing on the pen, the bits that have been drawn in ink just yet. So I haven't gone in with my black brush pen on the windows there yet. And now I've got a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen in a shade of grey. I've got these pens in the set of 6 shades of grey. That's really hard to say. I'm finding it hard to say. So it's got 3 warm greys and 3 cold greys, and they are just, I want to use the word magnificent. It's just a strange word to use, but let's roll with it. Magnificent. They're just great for using over the top of watercolor or in conjunction with watercolor. They've got India ink in them. They are light fast, and they just sort of go over the top of watercolor really nicely, especially if you're trying to put in some shadow areas. But they also work really nicely standalone as well. So I love those pens, and I've recommended them to a few people, including some of the urban sketchers here in Johannesburg, and they agree they're really great pens. And you see me get my blue Posca paint marker out there as well, just to put in some of the window frames. I just felt like that kind of cobalt teal light color that I put in with the paintbrush wasn't quite doing it for me. So I thought I'd go in with my blue Posca marker and just really make that quite bold. And I really love, like, what do you call it, kind of mundane street signs in scenes. I think I get that maybe from Ian Fennelly. I just really love it when people include just really banal like road signs. But especially in this scene, it really adds a nice balance in color, because you can bring a bit of red in where the scene's kind of quite yellow and green and blue. So yeah, I'm quite a fan of adding road signs in. So I've got a different shade of grey of the Pitt Artist pen. I think it's nice to show different tones in the window panes sometimes. Sometimes I do them all black. Sometimes I paint them and I put reflections in them. It just depends what the scene calls for. But you can see in this photograph, they are quite dark, but I just didn't want them all to be completely black. And now I've got my green Posca marker out. I don't have that many Posca markers. I think I've got about 5, but it just so happens that I've got colours that I thought might work quite nicely in this scene. And whilst this green isn't quite the same colour as the colour on the wall in the photograph, I just thought it would be, because it's a paint marker, it would just be like a nicer, kind of brighter thing to use than the watercolours perhaps. And I didn't really have a watercolour in this shade. I could have mixed a green with some white, and that would have given me a nice colour. But yeah, just fancied using the Posca marker. And continuing in that vein, I'm using the Posca marker again on the flag as well. This part is in the ink drawing section, so I wasn't sure whether to do it coloured or not, but it brings in a really nice pop of colour, and it kind of ties the road sign in a bit. So I thought it was actually quite important that flag was in there. So here I'm just trying to show a bit of depth to the window frames, just putting a little line of shadow around with my brush. And just trying to add a bit of texture and interest into the wall there, just so it doesn't all look a flat colour. And if anyone's interested, this is the sketchbook I'm using is Stillman & Byrne Beta, and it is the 8x10 inch soft cover. Really, really love Stillman and Burn sketchbooks. And this is actually the very last page of this sketchbook. I'm not going to do a sketchbook tour on this one because actually you would have seen most of it if any of you have seen my video on our honeymoon trip around South Africa, which if you want to do a little bit of armchair traveling around South Africa with me and see some of my sketches, then I highly recommend that video. If you prefer to see all of the sketches in ebook format, then I also have a book available, and all the links are in the description below if you're interested in that as well. So I think I've finally somewhat made a plan for the bits that are drawn in ink. I know I've added a bit of colour to some of the areas, like the green wall on the left-hand side and the flag, but I think what I'm going to do is actually just do the inked parts in just monochrome, like black and grey, shades of grey, to counteract with the super colourful parts. So I thought that would be interesting. So let's see how that turns out. And I'm interested, guys, if you've ever sort of tried this or thought of this, where you sort of paint some of your picture in colour and then do some of it in black and white. I'd be really interested to know if anyone else has given this a go before. And if not, let me know if it's something that you'd be keen to have a go at. I think it's quite an interesting effect. And I think now I've tried it and sort of come up with it in my head, I might have a go at pushing it even further. So watch out for future videos on this subject matter. So I'm just adding a few more details that I missed with the pen, just adding in some of the railings on that balcony. I don't think they're called railings, but the posts on the balcony, the post details. And now I am going in with the black brush pen to do these windows here, just to kind of give it some more impact. And I really enjoy doing experiments like these, guys. You know, once you've kind of perhaps got over the hill of like just learning and following a similar process, it's really, I'm kind of into that stage where I just want to experiment loads and I just want to try different things and see if, I don't know, see what happens. And I think you've probably caught that drift by now, but if any of you have watched any of my YouTube videos. But yeah, I'm very much in that experimental stage right now. And I do have a new course coming out really soon, so do watch out for that, which focuses in on a particular experimental technique, which I have been obsessed with lately. So I'm really excited to share that with you in lots of detail. So watch out for that course coming soon. If you get yourself on my email newsletter, then you'll be the first to know about that course as well. So I am being a bit impressionistic with some of the details. You know, I'm not sort of going for absolute complete accuracy as per usual. And I am sort of interpreting some aspects to make the sketch more pleasing to my eye. So yeah, I got to this stage and I was like, that's cool, but I just really want to do something now in the white space. So as I said, I think I'm decided to go with a kind of grayscale look in those inked in parts, but I'm doing it quite tentatively. I'm telling you now because I'm looking at it in hindsight, but at the time I was like, let me just add a bit of grey here and let me just add a bit more grey here and then let's just see what happens if I add a bit more grey here, and then I ended up doing the whole lot. This is a really fun scene to sketch. It's a really awesome building. It's got bits and bobs all over the place. So if you want to have a go at sketching this, you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. You could just sketch it, you know, in your normal process or whatever, but it's a great photograph. And the link is in the description below. It comes from Pinterest. I've actually got a whole board over there, split into sections, depending on the subject matter, of photos I have collected just to practice with and just to play around with. So you are absolutely welcome to go over there and use all of those photos for your reference as well. And yeah, let me know if you do. I'd love to hear from you. You can tag me on Instagram. I also have a Facebook page now, which I'm sort of like late to the party. Maybe I'm like jumping on the Facebook bandwagon the 8th time round. I don't know. But yeah, I do have a Facebook page now, Taria's Sketchy Adventures. You'll find it under that name. So yeah, do go over there. And if you're a Facebooker and like my page, and like you can, I think you can post things to the page or tag my page so I can see you over there too. As I know not everyone's on Instagram, and I've resisted Facebook for many years now, but I'm finally joining the party. So if you're a Facebooker, then good news, I'm there. So I just put in those bushes super loosely, which was actually really fun. I don't know if bush is the right word actually, but they're kind of got like palm leaf looking things. Not so good on my plant identification knowledge, I'm afraid. But yeah, they were really fun to put in. Just went in with a light grey and then sort of brought in some shadow shapes with the darker grey. And just sort of putting in some loose shadows at the bottom on the ground there. But pretty much, guys, this is done. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I'm really enjoying the mixture of the sort of pencil paint areas with the ink and monochrome areas. I think it's really interesting. And yeah, I think it's a technique that I want to sort of take a bit further, really. So do let me know if you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you're going to have a go at this as well. And remember, if you do, tag me over on Instagram or Facebook. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed this one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.